This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network, now in its 7th year. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Hey, hey everybody, this is Alex Bennett, and this is the Ramble, and we go until midnight tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, Larry Bubbles Brown.
Yes.
How you doing, Larry?
Good. I was thinking about, we were talking about entertainment the last time, and show business is such a crapshoot to get anywhere, and you always see people that are really good that make it, but sometimes people that are really lame make it. I wondered if you had any names that come to mind that people have gotten really big. I can't tell if anyone's a bad actor or a good actor, but who's like a bad actor?
Well, forget about bad actors. First of all, you talk about people who are bad, but and I immediately, the first name that always comes to mind is Perry Kurtz.
Well, Perry's not like a big star.
No, Perry tried to be a big star. His biggest moment was being on what was that? What was the dating game thing show where they went send people out on dates and they came back and talked about
Love Connection.
Love Connection. He goes on stage to this day and plays his Love Connection tape as part of his act. You know. But he was not funny. But you're talking about people who made it now.
People that made it big that really didn't have a lot going for them.
Let me see. I came up with somebody the other day, and I can't remember. Well, okay. This is going to sound terrible, folks, because you don't speak ill of the dead. But Louis Anderson.
Oh, really?
I never could see why Louis Anderson had a career.
I hadn't seen him in years, but when he first started, I'd liked his stage persona. It was just so relaxed. I remember I liked that.
Yeah, but was he funny? Long pause.
I'll have to look. I haven't seen him. I literally haven't seen him since the '80s. I'll have to.
Yeah,
but people told me he was hilarious.
You could fly it by me. I mean, this is a guy I think who always survived. He's probably very well liked. Okay, and if you're well liked, you get work, whether you're good or bad.
If you're easy to work with, yes.
Exactly. And he's probably easy to work with. Probably was not a prima donna or anything else. And, I assume he was a very nice guy, but I never found him funny. On the other hand, Bob Saget, I found very funny.
Mm-hmm.
And I see why he had success. He should have had more success than he had. Okay? And he had, people say, well, he had a TV show and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but that ran for 8 years and then his career stopped, at least in the public eye. And I think he deserved more. I think he was better than that. All right? A lot of, how about comedians that that should have made it that didn't? Big, I'm talking about.
Yeah. The funniest guys never make it huge, usually.
You know why? The comics.
Exactly,
the comics that comics laugh at. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, But it doesn't get you famous. I mean, we always talk about our friend Jeremy Kramer. Nobody out there knows who we're talking about when I say Jeremy Kramer. But if I talk to somebody in the comedy business and I say Jeremy Kramer, they go, "Oh, he's hilarious."
The best, yeah.
Yeah. But he and I think that kind of poisoned his career. That idea that he was the funniest guy around, or what a genius, that it kind of hobbled him. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it makes it hard. You got a lot to live up to when people are saying things like that.
You have to live up to your reputation, or you live on your reputation. I mean, everybody says you're great, so why should you work hard? You're good as you are. But you've got to have one other factor, and that's pushing yourself. And that's where we get into that territory of people, as you said, who you say to yourself, well, I never thought they were funny, or I never thought they were a good actor, or whatever. Is these are people who just push themselves, and push themselves on people. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, but I'm trying to think of some people I know of who were not particularly good, but they knew how to push themselves. They knew how to push themselves.
Well, acting-wise, I would think of Schwarzenegger one.
Schwarzenegger's very good, and I was surprised when he became a star. I mean, why did he become a star? There was no reason for him to. Couldn't act, looked funny, sounded funny, had a name you couldn't pronounce, right? So, I mean, that being the case, it was amazing that Arnold Schwarzenegger made it, but he was driven.
Someone said he had more drive than anyone they ever saw.
Yeah. And so sometimes it's, we know comics, for instance, Bob Rubin, okay? Mm-hmm. I think you and I both agree, very funny comic, right?
And most unique, yes.
Has absolutely no drive. I'll tell you another one who absolutely no drive. Larry Bubbles Brown.
I got a little more than Rube.
Yeah, but not enough to, when you wait 20 years to go back to the or is it 21? Back to the David Letterman show after you were asked after the first time to just get another 5 minutes and come back. That's not what I would call drive.
Looking back, that may have been a mistake.
Well, I mean, everybody sits around saying about Larry Bubbles Brown. He was 21 years between shots on the Letterman show. He never went back. And the reason I think you went back is because everybody was admonishing you for not going back. Yeah, so, I mean, but some people have the drive. Some people are just like, they're relentless in pursuing their career.
Yeah, I think people in entertainment, most creative people don't have good business sense. The ones that do, that can follow up on all this crap and stay on it. Those are the ones that tend to get ahead, I think. Yeah, well, I'll tell you what happened to me once. There was a guy on KSFO. His name was Gene Nelson. Do you remember Gene Nelson at all? From the he followed Don Sherwood. By the way, I can't remember the name YouTube today when I was trying to bring up YouTube, but I can remember Gene Nelson. Okay. Gene Nelson, yes. I heard him on the radio when I first moved here. Right. So now I'm fired from one radio station. I can't remember which one. Maybe it might have been the first time I was let go at the Live 105. It might be, or it might be earlier than that. Might be the time I wasn't working because of the quake. But anyway, I'm out of work. Okay, the alarm goes off in the morning. And it's Gene Nelson on the radio. And the first thought that comes to my mind is, how come he's working and I'm not? Because this was the most terrible radio I had ever heard. Okay? And this guy lasted forever. There are people in the Bay Area, Lamont and Tonelli. I mean, people who are mediocre. I think they're still on. Yeah, they're still on. I've been gone out of San Francisco for what, 30 years or something? I don't know how many years have I been gone. And Lamont and Tonelli are still there. Sarah and Vinny still has a job. Again, another case of mediocre radio. And I'm going, I guess my problem in radio was I wasn't mediocre enough. Mediocre always survives. Yeah, and these people, by the way, they just admitted Lamont and Tonelli into the Bay Area Hall of Fame, where I've been a member. I was brought into it and when? God, I think 2008.
2008, yeah.
I was there.
And eventually now here in 2021, Lamont and Tonelli get in there, and I'm going, boy, they must be running out of people. I guess you just get into the Hall of Fame by never leaving, you know? So, I mean, that's what you want to know about what I consider mediocre. Those are mediocre talents, you know? I mean, God bless them. Somebody listens to them, you know? Somebody likes them. Somebody loves them. You know, but I think you go for broke. You go to do the best possible show you can do, and the most unusual and different and whatever. You don't just sit around and try and be mediocre for 25 years.
Yeah.
But they've still got a job, and I don't.
Well, you survived radio is a horrible business like comedy.
Well, I probably had a harder time surviving. I mean, I did survive. I got to tell you, I mean, if you consider that I was still doing, you know, radio up until I was about 74, okay, or 73 or 74, that's a pretty long career. Most people are out of radio by that time. But you know, I just wonder why, and I think the problem is because my show was, whatever I did was so different that the only people who understood it were the people who were listening to it, the audience. That
yes.
The management of radio stations never understood me, you know, never understood what I was doing. It was just a little too off kilter for them. And so because I didn't appeal to the people in suits who ran the radio stations, I had a harder time of surviving. You know?
Yeah, the people in the suits are always the one that runs those industries into the ground, too.
Well, you got to realize, folks, your TV shows and all the stuff you see on TV is really determined by a bunch of people who have no talent whatsoever.
Sure, yeah.
Their only talent is making money for their overseers. And in that, they are loved and considered great in the business, you know. But very seldom have I ever worked for somebody who truly admired talent. I worked for a guy at Sirius XM named Mel Karmazin. Mel Karmazin was the guy who found Howard Stern. And I had an opportunity years early to work for him. In that time when I went back to Live 105, I got an offer to go work for Mel Karmazin at WJFK in outside of Washington. I can't remember. It was like Baltimore or somewhere like that. And we actually went to Washington to talk to the general manager of the station and talk about the whole thing. And I was supposed to go. I just had to quit Live 105 in order to do it. And I just decided I don't want to work for Mel Karmazin. Geez, I've heard horrible things about this guy. Well, I didn't realize the horrible thing were from general managers, because he would go into a town where he owned a radio station or whatever and just take the general manager and rake him over the coals. You know, profits are not high enough, blah, 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 blah. But that he was a talent-driven executive. He was a guy who just absolutely admired talent, but I didn't know that.
Really?
I didn't know that then. But when I went to Sirius XM, he came in as the head of Sirius XM, and I went, well, I'm out of here because that's Mel Carr. And no, quite the opposite. Mel was talent. He admired talent, and he would do everything to support talent. And that was the first time I ever saw in management a guy who actually, respected talent. And he, one day I hadn't, I'd never met up with him, but one day I'm up in the break room, and there's Mel. So I figured, what the hell? I better go over and introduce myself. So I go over. He said, Mel, you may not know me, but I'm Alex Bennett. I work at Sirius XM at the Progressive station. And he went, oh, Alex Bennett, I'm a big fan.
Wow.
I mean, what a way for you to meet your boss. And he used the term fan. he didn't use a term like, "Oh, yes, I've heard your work and I like it." You know, he said, "I'm a fan."
Mm-hmm.
And then we talked for a couple of minutes, and I suddenly realized the reason I was there and continued to be there was because of Mel.
That's great.
And once Mel left, I felt my job was in jeopardy, and eventually it was. But if Mel were still there, I think I'd still be at Sirius XM. You know,
So where did he wind up going?
he wound up I think, retiring. Just retiring. You know, just not. He didn't go on to any other radio job. He probably could have taken any radio job he wanted to, but I think he was just tired of it. You know, and I think he had made enough money. He made a fortune off of Stern, made a fortune off of whatever time he spent at Sirius XM. I think his salary was something incredible. You know. So he probably just said...
His name was feared in radio. I remember that.
Well, there was always a story about Mel Karmazin, and I don't know whether it's true or not, but it was meant to exemplify who a lot of people considered Mel Karmazin was. And that was that he was this general manager from one of his radio stations walking down Fifth Avenue. And on the other side of the street, Mel Karmazin is walking and sees this guy and starts running out into the middle of the street yelling, "You son of a bitch, you son of a bitch." And the guy yells out, "Mel, you're going to be hit by a car." And he yells back, "No car hits Mel Karmazin until I say he can." Now, I don't know if that's a true story, but a lot of people use that to kind of exemplify his management technique. He was hell on his sales department. He was hell on his general managers. But when it came to talent, we were gold. I've never seen anything like it in my life, and I really appreciate it, you know.
Yeah.
And it was great to work under somebody like that because he understood what I was doing.
Well, people like him would have kept radio alive.
Well, you know, he gave us Howard Stern, which is not a bad thing. I mean, Howard is a talent, okay? And he recognized it, and he was willing to stand by him. This was the guy who, when Howard got hit by all kinds of fines from the FCC, Mel said, "I'm not going to pay it. Let's go to court." You know, and they weren't huge. I think they were large fines, but they weren't gigantic fines. And he just said, "I'm not going to put up with this," and he went to court and he won. He defended what Howard was doing on the air. Now, I've never saw anything like that in my life, because in my life and in the life that I led, if I ever got into trouble and the FCC wanted to fine the radio station for something I had done, they'd fire me.
They'd fire you, yeah.
You know, they'd get rid of me rather than go and defend me and defend their right to have me on their air. So that's why I came to appreciate Mel Karmazin. He's probably one of the best owners and managers of a radio organization ever.
Wow, that's great. I never knew that about him.
Yeah. I mean, he went out and Howard would not be what Howard is today if it weren't for Mel Karmazin. Now, of course, Howard doesn't want to admit that, but it's true, because he's the guy who went to bat for him against the FCC and wouldn't fire him under any circumstances. And if Howard had been fired at any point during that, if when the FCC had come along with the fines and they had bailed out by saying, "Oh, well, let's get rid of him," or whatever, let's not challenge the fines, Howard wouldn't be anything today. He would have lost his job and nobody else would have wanted to hire him.
Yeah.
So Mel Karmazin is to be lauded as a guy who stood up for his talent. I I was so wrong not to go to work for him at WJFK. I think it's Baltimore, maybe. Could be Baltimore. It was right outside of Washington, D.C. And they wanted to syndicate me and do everything, and I, at the last minute, decided I had a loyalty to Live 105, right?
Yeah.
And that I was going to stay there, and so I stayed there, and then the station was sold. Guess to who? Mel Karmazin. And
I remember that, yeah.
yeah, and what he wanted to do was get Howard in there, and so that's why I was kind of asked to leave. You know, because Howard was on in San Jose on the
San Jose,
Infinity
yeah.
station in San Jose, and he was on down there, and he couldn't get ratings. He couldn't even come close to beating me. So the best way to do it is buy the radio station, get rid of me, put somebody in the meantime, kind of a space filler called Johnny Steele, then fire Johnny Steele and put in Howard. Then Howard won't have the onus of having knocked off Alex Bennett to get the job. You get what I'm saying?
That's what happened. Yeah.
So that's basically what happened. Yeah. So I mean, it was that was the whole deal. You know. But you know, so Mel Carbonson may have been the reason that I got kicked out of San Francisco, but it was all for business reasons. You know, that I can kind of understand, right? But when it came time to standing up for me and believing in me when I went to Sirius XM, he was there and he believed in me. So, what the hell, you know? Excuse me, I'm pontificating on my career. Let's talk about yours.
No, I like radio. It's,
where did your career go wrong? Well, wait a minute. I'm not saying that you had a bad career, but I'm saying where did you make the mistakes that prevented you from being, I don't know, Louis C.K.? Because you would have pulled out your penis eventually. So anyway.
Yes, but I would have asked permission.
well, he did too. So
yes.
You know. Where did you? I mean, I'll tell you where I fucked up was not taking that job at WJFK.
Okay, well,
Okay.
I can cut mine just like that. My biggest mistake was I did my first Letterman and went okay, and I should have moved to L.A., and I did. I stayed here.
Yeah.
Stayed in Mayberry, and because it was comfortable.
Yeah.
Which I think that's probably why you stayed here and didn't go to WJFK, right? It was comfortable.
Well, it wasn't that it was comfortable. It was kind of loyal because at that time I had been let go and then brought back by a different general manager, Pat McNally, and I felt I could get up and leave, okay, because they promised me syndication and I wasn't getting it, and I could say you didn't live up to your contractual obligations and blah 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 blah, and I could leave. But I liked Pat, and I felt loyal to Pat, and I knew how it would impact him if I left. Okay? So I didn't go.
Yeah.
And it was also because Mel said, I will let Alex Bennett come to WJFK if he quits Live 105 first. Well, I didn't know that much about Mel at that point. I didn't trust him. And I figured that if I suddenly quit Live 105 to go to WJFK, once I quit to go to WJFK, they could say, well, we decided we don't want you. And now I'm out in the street with nothing. All right? So it was a little bit of my distrust of Mel that made me also turn down that job. And actually, it was a job I should have taken because they were promising me syndication, which they could get me. You know, I just never... And I think they also wanted me because they wanted to clear the board for Howard. So Howard could come into San Francisco. So it was you know, that was my big mistake.
Well, you showed what few people do in this business, and that's loyalty.
Well, yeah, I felt a little guilty about the whole thing. I mean, I told them that I was thinking of leaving, and in fact, I think we actually gave them notice, and then we decided not to. Because I just didn't like the fact that I had to quit them first. The reason why Mel wouldn't hire me if I didn't quit them first is he didn't like to appear as though he was poaching somebody. You know, he felt a certain kinship with other general managers and would not do something that he wouldn't want to have done to him. You know, so he wanted me to quit first so he could then hire me and do so with a non-guilty conscience. As it were. So that's the business. People are getting an insight into the business.
But that would have been a big step to dump your job on the oral promise that he's going to hire you.
Yeah, I would be out on. There would be that moment where I would be very vulnerable. I didn't realize now. Mel was always a man of his word, and he would have lived up to that.
Yeah,
and that
but
was
you didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I heard all the horrible stories about him. You know, nobody runs over Mel Karmazin unless they say they can run me over.
That's the stories I always heard.
Yeah. Anyway, hey, listen. Good talking to you, Larry.
Good talking to you, buddy.
Of course, we're going to do this again next week. You're a regular. Yeah, keep taking that Metamucil. Anyway,
I'm an irregular.
Talk to you later.
All right.
This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network, now in its 7th year. Talk like you've never heard it before.
And, of course, our good old friend, yes, the lovely and attractive Larry Bubbles Brown. We love Larry. I say that every week, and I'm absolutely right. We love Larry, okay? So anyway, here I am. I'm ready to go for another little go-round with people. We'll see if we get anybody calling tonight. I'm freezing up a little bit. No, it's getting better. Okay. All righty. I think we're okay. See, the trouble is, I suddenly realized I have a very hard time doing this show because it used to be that when I did a show, I had somebody running a board, and they ran the commercials, and all I had to care about was what I was saying. I didn't have to worry about the stuff that was going on around me. Here, if I try to, like last night, I was trying to do a half hour just talking. What makes it so difficult for me is because there's so many other things I have to watch out for while I'm talking, and that doesn't make for very good radio or internet or podcast or whatever. So maybe I got to get somebody to just run a board for me here, and I can just pay attention to talking to you and looking into the camera and not having to worry about what's going on here and whether I'm out of sync and all those things. Either that or just give it all up, I found a little thing, for instance, that I can do here on the chat, in which I can ask a question like, let me see, should I retire? Okay, should I retire? Because it might be time for me to retire. And I asked people that, and there's a yes, no there. And I ask your community, and there we go. And now the question is up there, and they can, they can answer that question. And I can look back every now and then and see how they're answering it. Well, 100% say no so far. Okay, all right. So far, 100% say no. But who knows? We may have whatever. Anyway, so should I retire? No, 100%. Of course, there are only like about 3 people there, so it doesn't really matter. All right. Anyway, I think it's time for us to maybe go to our citizen panel. There are only 3 of them waiting here, but I find that some people just wait to come on, and by the time the show's over, we have like about 9 people. So let's go over to our citizen panel. There they are. There's Alan, and there's Charlie, and there is Josh. And shall we all sing? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Charlie. Happy birthday to you. How was that?
Thanks, guys.
Yeah?
72 trips around the sun. 72 trips
You're
around
10
the
years
sun.
younger than I am. Come on, you're a kid.
Yeah.
You're a kid. And you're in good health for the most part.
Pretty much,
Yeah. I could give you a litany of the things that are wrong with me, and really compared to some other people my age, it's not much. I got a little neuropathy, and I got a little of this and a little of that, but basically, what? So good health to you.
Thanks.
How about you, Alan? Are you in good health?
Sort of. Yeah.
Well, there's either.
I mean, actually, I'm very healthy for for 63 and as fat as I am, but I got a high PSA test a couple weeks ago. So
really high how high was it?
well, actually, it's normally a below 1, but it went to 3.2, which is still in the normal
Well, that's
range.
in the normal range, yeah.
But right away, the urologist wants to do a biopsy. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, slow down a little bit here.
Yeah, slow down. You don't go to biopsy till you have at least a 4.0.
Right.
You know.
Yep.
He's probably looking at the jump and worried about it. You know.
It is a concern, but I also have chronic prostatitis, and it could be that also.
It could easily be that. Oh, right. Easily be that.
So I didn't like the way the urologist we had a video call the other day, so I asked for a second opinion.
Let me say this to you, and this is my advice to you.
Okay.
Until my most recent guy, I have never had a urologist I liked.
Okay.
And when I said to somebody, my regular doctor, boy, I'm really having trouble finding a really decent urologist, his answer to me was, well, they're weird. That's what he said. He said we always, in medicine, we look upon urologists as weird.
Yeah.
And I got this urologist who isn't weird.
Wow.
I mean, he did a what do you call a biopsy on me, but only when he felt it was absolutely necessary. He said, I don't jump into biopsies that easily, but he had to do it, and thank God he did, because they found that I had a touch of the cancer, as little Richard would say, a touch of the cancer, and it was taken care of. So what the hell,
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll do whatever. Just to jump from I understand it went up quite a bit, but it's still in the normal range.
Mm-hmm.
And, the guy said, I'll offer you a biopsy. And I talked to him in video, and he was like strange. And so
I'll offer you a biopsy. What is this? Like, well, you came in for this and you paid so much. Hey, we'll give you a bonus. I'll give you a biopsy.
Yeah. Well, he actually doesn't make any more money from it. It's Kaiser. So they're all salary paid or monthly paid, so he's not gonna. So I'll just I'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, I don't know. They did what they did with my prostate, and now I have all kinds of other little insignificant problems, like hurts when I pee sometimes, and I've lost all my sexual drive. A few things like that.
I'm still fairly sexually active, and so. He didn't want to hear that. He didn't know that I have chronic prostatitis. He didn't know anything about me, and I thought, screw this. I'll get a second opinion.
He should know a little more about you than that.
Right, and so hopefully the next guy will.
Yeah. Hey, Josh, you're healthy, aren't you? Yeah.
I got a few things, I guess.
Well, like what?
Yeah, tell us.
Well, I mean, we talked before off air that I have the hereditary condition that my father has that is probably going to lead to me not walking very well later.
Are you talking about a neuropathy, maybe? Or what is that?
There's a disease of the spinal cord that we have that causes some pretty severe back and hip issues, which I have, and he's 60. He's 63, and he walks with a walker. He can't walk without one.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, sometimes he hobbles with a cane, but
do you feel? I mean,
since he had that back surgery, I mean, he can't drive anymore.
Do you have any sign of that?
Oh yeah.
Oh really?
Oh really?
Oh yeah.
Because I didn't know that spinal problems could be genetic, but apparently they can be. Wow.
No, I mean it's like I have a pretty severe loss of like cartilage and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's a incredibly high strength form of like arthritis.
Ooh boy.
But it's very, very severe.
Oh.
So mine hasn't been as much with my back as his, but mine has definitely been with both of my hips very bad.
Oh boy. Well, yeah.
We're all falling apart. Otherwise, why would we be here?
Yeah.
Well, Charlie, you're in pretty good shape, I'd say, aren't you?
Well, I mean, yeah, all my problems are under control with medication. I take 13 pills a day.
And that psychosis, the pills take care of that right there. Yeah. Here we are on a birthday. Anybody ever get a hair sticking out of their nose?
Yeah, I know. It drives you crazy.
It drives you crazy. Anyway,
get a hair nose trimmer.
I got one of those. They never work.
Yeah, mine doesn't work.
They go whir, and then I go, well, where's the hairs? They're still there.
You just stick the thing in each nostril, let it cut, and then rinse it out and use a nasal rinse.
Hey, folks, welcome to the Old Person Show, in which we talk about all these things that happen to you when you get old, like hairs in your nose. The part I never could get is that why I lost it all up here, but it's coming out of my nose and my ears. Why is that? You know? And Josh, you're not that old, so you shouldn't be having these kind of problems, but hey, you know.
Well, I mean, and Jeff, it's pretty lifelong. Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, it's just the way it is.
And Jeff,
I don't mind.
Let's not talk about Jeff. I mean, little Bobby Stroke over there, you know.
Somebody that's listening to the show is giving me medical advice. Tony.
What?
He's listening to the show. He's not on, but he's on Facebook Messenger, and it's, you know, rapid fire messages. Don't let Alex worry you. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Blah blah.
Get yourself one of these, and it'll go off every 5 seconds when he, you know.
No, I turn the phone off, and if he sends like 50 messages, I just delete the whole thing without reading them.
Yeah.
And you know, and I told them, you know, I'm not going to make you a Facebook friend again if you're going to rapid fire these text messages.
Well, the horrible thing with Tony, and the reason why I banned him from like getting a hold of me on Facebook and texting me, is because it makes my watch go off, and that's a little kind of like bump, you know, little beep, little buzz that happens, and I keep getting those messages. I don't want them. So
he says he's on his 8th cup of coffee.
Oh, really?
No, he actually didn't say that, but these rapid fire messages make me think it.
Hey, well, Tony, don't just sit there. Give us a call.
Yeah, really. Get on the show, Tony.
You know, we don't mind having you here, Tony. You know. Anyways, was anything happening today that was worth talking about? No, not really.
Tony is on the show.
This guy Avenatti, you know Avenatti, the lawyer, Stormy Daniels' lawyer.
Yeah.
He just got found guilty of wire fraud.
Wow.
Having stolen $300,000 from Stormy Daniels. And
all because she had sex with Donald Trump and lied about it.
Yeah, right. No, but what happened was he represented her. And then he somehow took some money from her, or some money that she made went to him, or whatever.
He was writing a book.
Yeah, and he didn't give her the money or whatever. And I don't know the full story, but he's going to jail. He's guilty of wire fraud.
I was watching Serpico too.
What?
I was watching Serpico.
What does it have to do with Michael Avenatti?
No, I got to tell you why. Because one scene, he's on 57th Street, Alex, and he's talking to Internal Affairs, and he had the candy machine that you were talking about, and he says, "I got to get something to eat," and he starts kicking the machine.
Oh, you mean in the subway?
In the subway, yeah.
Yeah, they used to have candy machines in the subway.
And he couldn't get it out, and he started kicking the machine. I was like, "Oh, man."
Considering that's underground and it gets damp down there, and considering the state of the technology in those days with candy machines, which was you pull the lever, the stuff comes out, and you don't know how long it's been sitting there because people who were smarter than you didn't buy any candy, and then you buy the candy, and how long's it been sitting down there with the rats hanging out, you know, and the mold and all of that. Yeah,
it was funny, and it's just he's kicking the machine. He took his money and he's pulling it. He's like, because they were sitting and he's talking in front of us. They're trying to kill me, he says.
You know he's on coffee when he comes on here, and I'm talking about.
My brother watching Surfing
I'm talking about one thing.
I know, I was all jacked up on this, watching the whole movie.
Oh boy, here we go. Thanks for sending him coffee, Alan.
Yeah.
Well,
He's sending me vanilla coffee. Yeah, thanks. I have it for the Super Bowl.
Really?
You said that he should get on the show.
They made me watch the opening. I watched the opening ceremonies of the Olympics today.
Well, how was it? I walked away from it. I didn't see it, and we didn't go back. My brother was talking when it was going on. Was it nice? Because I hear they kind of they think it's going to get bad ratings, the Olympics over there.
So your brother was interrupting the opening.
Yeah, he was talking to me about work and what was going on in the city.
I watched it. You see, I subscribed to Peacock.
They got you? I want to subscribe for the Joe Montana. I didn't give him the $5 yet. I'm pissed. Is it worth it, Alex Peacock?
No.
All right, so I'll save my money.
He gets it free because he's Alex Bennett.
No, I didn't get it free because I'm Alex Bennett, but I'm paying the $9.95 because I don't want it with commercials.
Oh, I'm good on the $4.95. I want to watch a documentary. I'm just too cheap.
Well, the trouble is, like if you tape something and the commercial comes on, you can speed through the commercials. If you're watching it online, there's no way you can speed through the commercials. And so you really want to get the non-commercial version. But anyway, so we watched the opening ceremonies this afternoon because they already had it up there. And it was, compared to the ones in 2008, 2008 was spectacular. And it was thousands upon thousands of human beings on the stage at one time, all pounding on drums. And, it was amazing, if you all remember. Most of it was they were sitting there watching a big screen, because it was an LED screen that took the entire range of the arena plus a thing going up to the ceiling, and it was spectacular, the video and stuff they were doing, but it was kind of, it didn't have that same power of human beings doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, but what they did, here's what Xi Jinping did.
That's his name?
Yeah.
Yes, that's his
the
name.
president of China.
What? What'd you say, Alan?
He's the president of China, Tony. Where have you been?
Queens. I thought Alex was making fun of the name.
No.
Here, we can do a little Abbott and Costello routine. You say, who's the president of China? Ask me that.
Who's the president of China? I'm trying not to laugh.
Wait a minute. She is. Oh, a woman?
Really?
No, she is.
Anyway. I want to be the little fat guy. I like him.
Anyway.
The
little fat guy, how young are you and how old am I that you don't know that's Costello?
Is that Costello? I always get them confused. Yeah. I love Meet the Monsters. I have that on DVD. I love that one when he's waking him up.
Anyway, she did a great PR thing today. As you know, they are, they've been going after and imprisoning and indoctrinating the Uyghurs, which are a group of Himalayan, or not Himalayan, but Asian, kind of like Himalayans, who are a group up in the north of China, and the Uyghurs. And or is it Uyghurs or Uyghurs? Uyghurs.
I've heard it pronounced both ways.
Uyghurs or Uyghurs, yeah. And so everybody's like, our president didn't go to the Olympics. Why? Because the way they're treating the Uyghurs. And a lot of countries didn't go. England didn't go. France didn't go. Whatever. It was kind of Putin and Xi. Okay? Yeah. So anyway, at the end of the ceremony, the biggest part of the ceremony is the lighting of the Olympic torch, of the Olympic flame. And there's always one person that does it. Here it was two people. And one of the two people that she chose was a Uyghur, or a Uyghur, or a Yugger, or a Yugger, whatever they're called.
They couldn't pick somebody else?
Yeah, no. What do you mean they couldn't pick somebody else? This is politically, this was the perfect
No.
person to pick.
I know.
Because everybody's saying, oh, they're being inhumane towards the Uyghurs, and
That's true.
you know, so on. And then they went out and got one of them to light the torch, the final torch. You know, not the running around.
Oh, not the big one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was asking a question tonight. Maybe somebody can answer me this. The Olympic torch for the Winter Olympics is traditionally lit where?
I don't know.
I heard it was in a fireplace in, I think, Norway.
Really?
Yeah,
That's a
at
good
the
trivia.
home of the guy who invented some major sport.
Really?
Does anybody know at all?
That? Oh, I'd have to Google it.
See, yeah,
I had
look,
no idea.
look it up. Somebody look it up. You know.
What's the question? And who lights the?
Where is traditionally, wasn't this year, because of COVID, I think they did it in downtown Beijing somewhere. They lit the first one. But usually they lit the first one, I think, in a fireplace that was the home of somebody who was very important to the sports, to the winter sports.
I think they always used to have one torch that they would light someplace, and then they would run it all across the whole world.
Yeah, right. Well,
Olympics.
Olympia, Greece is the place where they do the Summer Olympics, but the Winter Olympics, I think the torch started in a fireplace in one of the Norwegian countries, but I don't know which. You can't find it anywhere, Alan?
I can't find it.
I
yet.
can't find it. Doesn't say.
No, that's interesting. You know, but anyway. Anyway, so it was kind of interesting that he you know, made got a Uyghur to do it. I don't know that that's going to soften the blow at all, but it was certainly
No,
a
they
mass.
probably took the guy out and shot him after that.
No, it was a woman. It was a woman.
Oh, shot her then.
Yeah. Well, undoubtedly she's been fully indoctrinated, you know. And then you had, this was great. Putin, who is now, you know, thinking about attacking
The Ukraine.
Ukraine, is sitting in the stands. He's there all by himself, by the way, because they're keeping a safe distance. And same thing with Xi. They gave him a lot of distance, too. I think they just didn't want them to come down with COVID. And he's sitting there, and all of a sudden, here comes the Ukrainian Olympic team. And they walk in. And then they take a shot of Putin, and he's like this. He's like asleep. And then he wakes up or opens his eyes and sees who's going by, and he goes,
I'm prejudice.
yeah. They think that he's going to attack in the next couple of days, that he's going to do it during the Olympics. I don't think he's going to attack, if you want my opinion. I think we're just too on to him, okay? What do you think, Josh?
I don't know if he will or not. I mean, in some way, what really, I don't think he cares. I mean, what really can we do?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think that if he does, you'll get a lot of talk about how, Biden, he let him do it and all this, you know. And I mean, look, after the fact, there's going to be a lot of things they can do. I don't think he's going to care too much about. I mean, a ton of sanctioning and things like that. I mean, a lot of maneuvering. But at the end of the day, I mean, do American citizens want to send troops over? Do they want to be involved in a shooting war? I think the answer is no. So, you know, I think Republicans would love it if he invaded, because they could just hammer away at Biden about how he's going to, he let it happen. But just 2 weeks ago, they were hammering away about how he was going to send troops over there and get us involved in a world war. So, I mean, it's fucked either way, you know what I'm saying? So it doesn't really it's not going to work out. But I don't know what Putin will do. I mean, he's a pretty unpredictable guy, but I don't think he cares what, anyone will say about it, because if he does, I don't think much is going to happen. I mean, unless they're repelled, or something like that, and decide it's not going to be worth the blood that might get spilled or something. But I don't know if he cares about that either.
Yeah.
But at some point, maybe the people within Russia will care a little bit much and finally maybe make some changes to push him out of there. But I don't see it.
Well,
but if I had to guess,
yeah,
he's probably going to do it.
Do you think so?
I mean, if I just had to lean one way or the other, I don't know if it's going to be the next couple of days, but
well, he did
probably will.
He did go after Crimea and took it over,
right?
And if
right, and I mean, and there was a lot of blame went around for that one too. But like I said, I mean, what do you want to do? I mean, do you want to, do you want to put troops on the ground and form up a couple fronts and have that? I mean, I don't think the American people want to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, and I think that I'm sure a lot of other people would, pitch in and help, right. They'd probably give us, they'll all send a couple hundred guys or whatever who can like cook our food and, put air in our tires on our fucking trucks or whatever. But that's not, I mean, they're not gonna sacrifice like we would have to. We would have to bear the brunt of it.
Yeah.
And I don't think people want that.
Well, I don't know whether he's going to or not. I don't think so. I think he's just posturing.
I mean, that's I mean, it's I mean,
it's some expensive posturing.
Maybe to get something he wants.
Yeah.
Maybe to get something that he wants at little cost to him. Like that's North Korea's playbook, right?
And by the way, at the Olympics tonight, it was kind of like both Putin and Xi giving the finger to the United States. Like, you don't want to do business with us? Well, we just sold natural gas to China. And you know what China's going to do? They're going to give us some stuff in return. And we don't need you guys. And they really don't need us. They really don't need us. And
that's why.
And no matter what, Apple's still going to make their iPhones over there.
Yeah, I mean, that's why sanctions or something like that, I mean, can have a lot of really great effects. But at the end of the day, he's not going to care much at all, because you're sort of right that they really don't have to have. There's nothing that I think that I'm aware of, I mean, unless I'm totally missing the point on something. There's nothing that, America or Great Britain supplies to Russia that if they were to make this move and we were to take it away, they would crush them. I can't think of anything. I mean, what are we going to embargo that would make them give in?
China's also been, they've also been cozying up to are a lot of like poorer nations, African nations. They've gone in and built roads for them and so on and so forth, and cozied up to them too. So they got a lot more people in this world that are on their side than are on our side.
Yeah, I mean, look, if his goal was to return to some Cold War posturing, that's out of that. I mean, that's out of the game plan from that era, right? I mean, for them to move into areas that don't seem all that significant, but when you add them up, can certainly be a real pain in America's rear end.
Well, I'm just
what did Russia really need from Cuba? In the 1950s or whatever, but it strategically worked out very well for them. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So. That's the same kind of thing, I guess, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, the Russians wanted a base in Cuba, 90 miles from American soil.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, on its face, that's the whole point of those things. I mean, they don't care about Cuba or the Cuban people or anything like that, but they can make a deal, and I suppose everybody, it works out, well, Cuba. Castro and his folks and all the folks around him and just before him that worked with him, they all got what they wanted, you know, and you know, and the Soviet Union got what it wanted. So
yeah,
it might be the same kind of thing here. I mean, they've been a thorn in our side for, you know, quite a long time, and it's not going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah, right. By the way, now it's 86% for me not to retire. So somebody has voted for me to retire. So I can't see the rest of the poll though. I don't know. Can anybody see the poll in there in the chat? Because all I get is the no.
Well, I must have missed that.
Yeah, the no.
Yeah, I don't see it.
The no's. Let me see. Live chat.
Yeah, if you click on it, it says.
Yeah, 86%
no and
14% yes. Yeah. Well, it certainly makes me feel good.
Yeah, we still want you here.
Oh boy. Yeah, the guy who voted yes is I think Jack Bishop, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you know,
you think he's that talented that he could do that? You think that he can figure out how to vote yes?
Well, that is a problem. That would be a problem for him.
Yes, that was so.
I sent him a thing today. I want to see what happens with this. I'm sorry, Jack, if you're listening. We all know your technical prowess. He has an email address. He has jbishop@gabnet.net. Okay, which is I get 5 accounts on my email, so I made him one of them. Today or yesterday, a couple of weeks ago, they sent a thing saying they were going to change their whole system and they were going to like Microsoft 365 or something like that. And they would send it on the day of the changeover, they would send how to do it. So I went and did it, and I changed all my accounts so that they all resolve themselves in my mail client. Okay, but it took me a little bit of doing. It wasn't really that bad once I figured out how to do it. But I sent him an email on how to do it, and I want to see what happens. I want to see what happens.
He's probably got it set up so the Kremlin gets his email.
That's correct. You know, but and all of a sudden, you know, they go over to this Microsoft 365 because that's their new mail server. Okay, and all of a sudden, Microsoft is trying to sell me stuff. You know, like, would you like to be able to keep your mail beyond its expiration date and whatever? Here, just pay us another $225 a month or $299 a month, and we'll save all your mail. You know, so hello, Jack. Well, here he is. He's got to turn his audio on. I think he can do that. There we go. There's Jack. Hello, Jack. Jack?
Right here.
Oh, okay. Good.
I have my people taking care of that for me.
Oh, really?
Yes.
It's very simple, you know. The instructions are all there.
Well, seeing as how the people I'm having take care of it used to set up things for a major company, and they owe me big time.
Mm-hmm.
I said, let them do it.
Like I said, the Kremlin.
No, they worked for McCormick Spice Company. They used to buy software and hardware.
Oh yeah, the McCormick Spice Company are big software people. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're not. But the thing is, you know, like all companies, they had an IT division, and their IT division included my stepson, who now is living in my spare bedroom.
Oh, okay. So you've got an on deck tech guy.
Well, put it this way: I got him by the balls, and I'm squeezing hard.
Yeah, this thing will take him 5 minutes to do.
Well, that's why.
Yeah.
He's a good kid.
I had a few little problems with it because it just took a while for it to gain traction, and then it worked okay.
Well, he's a good kid, and he takes care of the old man quite well. And seeing as how he's going through the reestablishment of a home, because I told him never marry somebody who owns the house that you're living in, because when they kick you out, you got to come home to mom.
You're kicked out. You're kicked
You're
out.
kicked out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, sorry to hear he's going through that.
Oh, look. Me and his mother have been married for 34 years. During that time, he's been married 4 times.
Oh,
It's
gee.
not-
He's got
nothing new.
well
Genetic.
he's come up to my standard.
Well, I always thought the fact that I had never been divorced, although I'd been married twice. As you know, my first wife passed away.
Yeah.
But I always thought that maybe not having as many ex-wives as you have had probably was an impediment to my career.
Why is that?
Motivation.
Oh yeah, I slept with him for my jobs. Yeah, I forgot. No, why?
Well, you see, you were always in states. I think after you left Texas, you were always in states with alimony, right?
With alimony?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have no alimony in Texas.
Well, I've never paid alimony.
You dog.
All my wives wanted to get rid of me so badly they didn't want to fight for the money.
Well, that's the thing with,
You got off easy.
well, that's the thing with Don. He's only had to pay alimony one time, but boy, he had to pay child support.
Oh, well, you see, here's the thing. The reason I did okay in my career is I never had any kids.
Yeah.
So I could just pick up and leave and go somewhere to get a job, where somebody who has kids has to think, well, I got to move the kids and the family, and maybe I better stay here and become a real estate broker,
Yeah.
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 Yeah. But with me, it was just a matter of how do I get the next job? I got to go out to New York to get a job. Fine. I'm not getting paid anything for doing it initially. Fine. It made it a hell of a lot easier for me to make decisions about where I was going to go.
Well, you know what my problem was? I got here after, moving in the early part of my career 4 or 5 times, right?
Yeah.
And I got here and I liked it. I mean, although I bitch about the weather, although I bitch about the politics,
You like it? People don't understand this. People don't understand this, and I think Charlie would probably agree with this. Texas is a great place to live.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're living in one of the major cities. If you're living in Houston's a great city.
In many ways.
And I felt very bad leaving it. As a matter of fact, at a certain point, things were very bad for me. I wasn't on a radio station at the time. I was just out of work on a radio station. Still doing the Midnight Blue here in New York, but that wasn't making me any money. And all of a sudden, I get a call from Houston, Texas. And they offer me a job to come back to Houston to work. I can't remember where it was now, to tell you the goddamn truth. And I thought about it, and I said, nah, I don't want to go back there. That's going backwards. I want to move sideways, okay? Mm-hmm. And I turned that job down, and a week later I got offered the job in San Francisco, which turned out to be my golden job. Okay, of all the jobs that I've had, that's the one where I was the most successful. But, the ability to say no was very simple because it didn't matter to me. I could hold out for the next thing to see what was going to happen next. And I think that's when people have the biggest problems is they get married and they have kids, and then now it's, I've got to move to Houston or I've got to move to San Francisco. Gee, I don't know if I want to move the wife and kids. The kids have school here, blah, 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 So I never had that, all right? And my pure selfishness, I guess, is what allowed me to be successful in this business, so.
Well, I got offered... It was a couple of years after I had left Houston, and I was in a job that I thought was going somewhere, and it turned out it wasn't.
Well, it's never that way usually at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know.
So anyway, I get a call to not only go back to Houston, but to go back to the station I was at Houston for a little bit more money than I was making. And the only thing that stopped me was I said, as much as I had going for me in Houston, and I did pretty good, it would be a move backwards. And how do you measure?
Well, let me ask Charlie something. Charlie, you have some kids, right?
3.
Did you ever have to make business decisions based upon the fact that you had those kids?
Sure.
See, I never had to do that. How about let's see here. How about you, Jeff? Turn on your microphone. Yeah.
I agree with you guys. I had to do that several times.
Yeah. You would have made different decisions if you didn't have kids, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I could have been handling all the laser printers in the Caribbean and South America, but I wasn't going to move for my kids.
Yeah. Laser printers for who? When
I worked for Xerox. I was an analyst that was technical support for all the laser printers that Xerox has all over the country.
Boy, you probably could get all the toner you wanted.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes I might even have wanted the toner.
It's amazing what turns Alex on. Toner. I never knew that about you.
Yeah. Well, ever since we started talking about this, we lost about 10 listeners, so we better...
I don't know. I mean, talking about Xerox, Xerox invented the modern copier.
Yep.
Yes.
The technology is called xerography.
Yep.
Yeah, but do we really need Xerox? And do we need Xerox anymore? I mean, we've got printers. They print pretty fast. We got laser printers. They print pretty fast.
I don't need them anymore. I'm retired.
It is.
Yeah. Did you work for Xerox for a long period of time?
For 7 years, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Were they good to work for?
The first 3.
Well, what happened in the last 4?
Well, the laser printer started making money for Xerox, and so the copier division took over the laser division, and we had a bunch of executives that didn't know anything about computers, making all the decisions.
I feel bad for people who work in companies that get absorbed by other companies, because the company they went to work for and the company they loved is then taken over by an entirely different culture. And that's what's happening over at CNN right now, with Jeff, what's his name, getting quitting. The people there, on the air people, are griping publicly about him leaving and about the way the new company is treating them, because what's happening is AT&T is selling CNN to Discovery.
Oh, wow.
All right? Yeah.
Wow.
And because of that, they don't want anything that's going to be a problem in being able to have Discovery buy them up, okay, in the government. So that's why they asked Jeff, what's his name? I'm trying to remember his last name now.
Is it Zucker?
Zucker, Jeff Zucker.
Yeah.
They asked Jeff Zucker, they told Jeff Zucker, well, we can't have you doing this. I mean, all he did was he was having a relationship with a woman he had known for 20 years.
Yeah.
Mind you, 20 years. And one day they looked at each other, as many people do occasionally, and go, we've been friends for 18 years now. Why don't we take this thing to the next level? We like each other, we appreciate each other. And so they started having a relationship. But he didn't report it to the company, which was the rule of the company, that if you have a relationship with anybody in the company, you've got to report it. Which I think is disgusting. Can't I keep who I'm fucking to myself?
I mean, that's kind of rude, isn't it?
Well,
they had that way back in the 80s when I was at Xerox.
Yeah, but the reason is that they were bothered by this because, well, how does this affect our merger? And now all the people who are working there at CNN, a lot of the, like Wolf Blitzer and so on, they're all complaining to the press that we don't know what's going to happen to this company now that Zucker is gone, because he was the glue that kept it together. And he was the glue that was going to continue to keep it together if it went over to Discovery. And now he's gone. And he was a mentor to all of them. He liked them. He thought they thought he was terrific. Nobody in the press was saying a bad word about Zucker. I'm sure there's somebody that hated him, you know. But I know Trump hates him because of CNN and the way they treated him. But you know what the worst thing is about Zucker? He's the guy who gave you Donald Trump. Yeah. Who put him on The Apprentice and made him a star. If he had not done The Apprentice,
off with his head.
Huh? Yeah. If Zucker had not given him The Apprentice, he probably wouldn't have wound up being president of the United States. So if you want to think bad about Zucker, that's something to think bad about him. And he didn't do it because he liked Trump. He just thought, hey, here's a guy who knows how to handle the media, be very good at doing a show like this, and we need a billionaire to host the show. So they went and got him. But Trump hated him while he was in office, and he shouldn't have hated him because Zucker gave him the presidency.
Yeah, but Trump figured he did it on his own. Nobody helped him. He's the smartest guy in the world.
Yeah.
Well, if he didn't get think about it. If he didn't get The Apprentice, do you think he would have been president of the United States?
No.
How would
voted for him?
How would anybody in the middle of America know who the hell Donald Trump was if he didn't have a TV show? Right? So
wouldn't have happened.
No, wouldn't have happened. Yeah. So, but here that's what happens though. You have great companies. And all of a sudden, they're taken over by another company, and all of a sudden, the whole culture of that company changes as a result of that. And you wonder, why did that company suddenly start doing so badly? Well, they were sold to somebody else. Now, who knows? Discovery may buy it, and they may be a wonderful bunch of people, and they understand the news division, and they'll let it happen. But so far as I know, the thing they know the most about is like cooking shows. And all the Discovery Network has a lot of networks. I mean, it's a huge group, and they're buying CNN. CNN, a company that was owned at one point by Warner's, and then later on was owned by AT&T.
Didn't Ted Turner start it?
Ted Turner started it. Yeah, in the very beginning, it was Ted Turner.
Cable News Network.
I would love to interview Ted Turner and ask him what he thinks of CNN these days, because his concept of CNN was a whole different concept.
I remember when that first came out, they had an interview with him, and they said when he proposed like the idea, they were looking at him like he was crazy, like news all the time. They're like, "That's never going to work."
I remember watching CNN the first day it went on the air.
Oh, you watched it? We didn't have.
And I remember the first thing they said.
What they say?
This is CNN signing on for the last time.
Because they never go off.
Yeah, because they never go off. And that's they were 24-hour news, and everybody went, "Oh, that's not going to work," but it worked. So.
Don't you find that people in media, the suits in media, are generally opposed to any new idea?
Well, they're opposed to any idea that hasn't existed before. Yeah, once it exists and is successful, they all want to do it. Yeah. But that's because they lack imagination. Ted Turner, you know how Ted Turner started CNN? Is one night he was watching the CBS Evening News, and he saw Dan Rather, and he read something, and he smirked. And he said, "I want to start a network that doesn't do that." And his idea for CNN was never smirk, never have an opinion about the story you're reading. Read it as honestly as possible, but don't have an opinion about it. And don't enforce that opinion upon your audience. I want a non-prejudicial news source. And that's what he created. And it was that way for years until, he left and then somebody else took it over and, Fox came along and They were opinionated, so you had to become opinionated. But his whole concept was news without opinion. Yeah. And if you had opinion, they had a show called Crossfire, okay, in which they would then have opinion on that show. What's been your opinion over the years, Josh, about CNN? Have you had a?
I used to really like it long time ago, and I don't hardly watch too much cable news anymore. I mean, it's okay. It seems to be the one that I would go to because it does have more like news at times. It's not completely like opinion driven all the time.
Yeah.
So it has a little bit more newsy type stuff, but I think it's gotten a little bit out of hand at night because it's just like the other two networks now where they don't really do any news. They just do a lot of telling you sort of what they think about what's happening, which I don't really consider news.
What I've never gotten
by definition.
What I've never gotten about that is why at night on like Fox and on CNN and on MSNBC, all the nighttime shows are opinionated shows.
Yeah.
Why isn't it just news like the rest of the day? That's what we wanted.
I mean, they used to be that way. I mean, I
does
used to really enjoy. I mean, I remember Crossfire. I mean, it had Bill Press. I think like John Sununu or somebody was a guest all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Couple guys. I liked Crossfire, and used to do a long time ago every day, like 3 or 4 o'clock. This Inside Politics. It was Judy Woodruff and Bernard Shaw or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that stuff was great. They had Larry King all those years. Some of the I didn't care for him every night because he would interview a lot of stupid people, but he was great for years. They would hit politics.
And
all
even
the
I
time,
think even with Larry King, Larry King never had an opinion, did he?
Not that I could remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything jumps out or controversial or anything like that. He was just kind of a. Good interviews.
He would just interview the newsmakers, interview stars, and so on and so forth.
And most of the time, they would try to tie it to the current events.
Yeah.
It wasn't just complete nonsense or whatever. Around large elections or big events, a lot of times they would have people on that could, if you were running for president or something like that, you would almost always have one big important Larry King interview that was almost embedded into it was a big part of the campaign.
To all the kids out there listening to this, when I started out doing talk at WMCA in New York, well, actually, I first did talk. Where did I first do talk? First did talk in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I did a talk show in Houston, but I was the only talk show on the station, and that's where I did my first talk show. But when I especially when I came to New York, when you did talk, and you were on a talk station, there were a bunch of people doing talk shows, obviously. But they didn't all have the same opinion. Some were to the right, some were to the left, some were in the middle, and it was just a matter, were they good talkers? I did my show, and right after me, Bob Grant went on right after I went off the air. And Bob Grant was this big right-winger. And then he was followed by somebody else who was to the left. I mean, it was, you didn't have a station that was all this or all that. You remember the days, don't you, Jack?
Sure, but see, what happened?
I do.
I say this, that...
I thought that was more interesting, by the way.
It was. Yeah. But I say this, what happened was the suits realized that the audience were kind of like 2-year-olds. 2-year-olds want macaroni and cheese. Don't give me no broccoli.
No, wait a minute. I don't think they looked at them that way. I think they turned them into that.
Really?
Yeah. I think, if you start supplying people with a steady diet of one kind of thing, after a while, they accept that. But the fact was that, radio was far more interesting when you had a station with all these varying opinions, and sometimes the two people would cross over and yell and scream at each other for a couple of minutes when they went from one show to. In other words, having the same the same politics on all day long is like playing the same song over and over again.
Well, let me say something about that. The guy that made me aware of what we did and still do in American broadcasting with talk and with music was Tom Jones. I once interviewed Tom Jones, and I said to him, "You do all different kinds of music. You do pop, you do R&B, you do rock. What do you owe your versatility to?" And he said, "The BBC." And he listened to it in Wales, where the format for the music was varied.
Well, no, but it was varied here too.
But not to the extent. I mean,
to that extent. I mean, you had Frank Sinatra number 3, and you had Elvis Presley number 1, and you had.
But how many radio stations really did that?
All of them.
Really?
All of them. That was top 40.
I can't remember that.
Top 40 wasn't all rock music. Top 40 had Steve Lawrence, and then it had Elvis Presley, and then it had Chuck Berry, and then it had Little Richard. It was the rotation was amazing.
See, I'd rather listen to that. I listen to the old top 40. They'll play it on Sirius, or like from that year, like 1976, and you hear all different songs.
No, but the trouble is that this top 40 they're playing is only one genre of top 40. If I played you a top 40 list from the early 1960s, before the Beatles, it was all over the place. All over the place. Yeah. So, I mean, you remember that, don't you, Charlie?
Yeah,
when it was that
because you would get rhythm and blues on the same station that you would get, rock and Motown and all.
Well, there was a guy who became the head of talk programming at Clear Channel, which was the biggest chain in the country. And one time he came up to me and he said, "We can't have you on our station because you're to the left, and talk is right wing." That's what he said. Talk is right wing. And I said, "Isn't that a little boring?" And he said, it's kind of like playing the same. He said, "Well, on radio, if you play rock, you have to play rock and roll all the time." And I said, "But you can't equate it with that." And the fact was, I said, there was a time when they didn't do that. And I said, now what you're doing is you're not giving people a variety of opinion that makes things interesting, because that's what gives you the dynamic, that's what gives you the, So stations either became right-wing radio stations or left-wing. And most of the radio stations in this country, I'd say 95% of them at one point were all right-wing. All of them. So, that's what happened.
Hey, listen, I got to scoot, but
you got something to do? You got something to do?
Yeah, I do this thing following some clown named Alex Bennett called the
because then he starts playing a theme song, and that means you really got to go.
It means I really got to move.
We'll see you later, Jack. Thank you.
Thank you, pal.
Thanks to Alan tonight. Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you very much, Charlie Wallace. I hope people didn't mind the... Well, we really weren't doing radio talk. We were doing talk about variety and just show business. Charlie, happy birthday. What are we? You're 73 now or 72?
72.
72, okay. Josh, thank you so much. Maybe I'll see you another time like tomorrow night or something.
Perhaps.
Nothing that you have anything to do with. Jeff, you didn't say a word tonight, I don't think, did you? You said one thing. But I love having you there, And of course, Tony, thank you so much for being with us as well. Why don't all of you kind of give a big wave goodbye, and I'll give a big wave goodbye at you, and we'll call it quits for tonight, okay? Bye-bye. Have a nice weekend, okay? Anyway, that's our citizen panel for tonight, and let me just dump them out of here so that I can get rid of them. Come on, go. There we go. Okay. Anyway, that's it for tonight for me. That's it for the week for me. I will be back again on Monday at 4 o'clock on Facebook with Alex Bennett's Pop-Up, which is our most popular show that YouTube constantly misreports. That's part of the problem I'm having with them now. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. Nah, fuck 'em. Anyway, and also, I'll see you again, what is it, on next Wednesday at 10:30. Same time, same station in life. And in the meantime, as always, if you see her, tell her I love her. And by the way, please get vaccinated. If you've been vaccinated, get a booster. And if you don't do any of those things, better goddamn well wear a mask, or I don't want to hang around you. Have a nice night, everybody. The Intersection is next with Jack Bishop.